আসলে কথা বলে নাও একটু।
Okay.
করাই ভালো মনে হয়। আমাদের স্পিকার স্যার অনেকক্ষণই জয়েন করেছেন।
জয়েন করেছেন, হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ।
Good evening, everyone. On this beautiful evening, I, Sriparna Tarokdar, pleased to welcome each and every one of you on behalf of I.Q.A.C Bangabasi Morning College in today's brainstorming webinar on Mangroves, the Coastal Guard. I want to express my heartfelt thanks to our principal sir and chairperson of I.Q.A.C Bangabasi Morning College, Dr. Amitabh Datto, and convener of I.Q.A.C Bangabasi Morning College, Dr. Srijata Biswas, and the organizing committee of I.Q.A.C Bangabasi Morning College for organizing today's webinar. I feel privileged to extend my warm welcome to our respected learned delegates. Before we get started, I request our principal sir for a welcome speech. Sir, please unmute yourself.
Hello.
Yes, sir, you
Hello.
are audible.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Good evening. I am very happy to announce that I.Q.A.C of Bangabasi Morning College is organizing a virtual seminar. In this pandemic situation, I.Q.A.C of our college is doing an excellent job. Last month, we have arranged a virtual cultural function. It was excellent. The title of today's seminar is Mangroves, the Coastal Guard. This is very important issue and a challenging area in today's relevance, especially after Hong Kong, Yaas, and so many other cyclones. We have two distinguished and eminent speakers. One is R.N. Mandal, that is Rakindra Mandal, Principal Scientist, Regional Research Center. And another one is Onivan Rai, Research Officer, West Bengal Biodiversity Board. Sir, we are looking forward to your valuable lecture, which I believe must enrich us. And I welcome you, both of you, for accepting our invitation. We have our government nominee, Sri Jawaharlal Das, and Secretary Alumni Association, Sri Biswajit Das. We have with us Ashutosh Kumar and Anindo, our GME members. On behalf of the college, I welcome you all. And finally, we have more than 175 registered participants, not only from our college, but also from other institutions of West Bengal. It's my privilege to welcome you all in this wonderful evening. And finally, from my young faculties and students, তাদের সম্বন্ধে একটু বলতে চাই যে খালি এলাম এই সেমিনার শুনলাম চলে এলাম, মানে সেটা কিন্তু সব নয়। Especially for a bioscience, you must have some thinking power. You must have some application. এটা নিয়ে ওভাবে ভাবতে হবে, চিন্তা ভাবনা করতে হবে। Otherwise, এই ধরনের সেমিনার ইট জাস্ট এ ওয়েস্টেজ অফ টাইম, আর কিছুই নয়। আমি বেশি কিছু বলবো না, কারণ উই আর অলরেডি ভেরি লেট। And finally, one more time, I welcome you all. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you so much, sir. Next, I would request our convener and coordinator of I.Q.A.C, Bangabasi Morning College, Dr. Srijata Biswas, to throw some light on the purpose of organizing this webinar. Madam, please deliver the keynote address.
Good evening. Respected chairperson, our esteemed speakers and honored participants. I, as the convener of today's event, feel privileged to welcome you to the national webinar on Mangroves, the Coastal Guard. There is a saying that we learn from our experience. As our principal sir has said, in the recent past, we have experienced a very severe cyclonic storm, Yas, and many others before that, that have caused widespread damage in eastern India, especially in our state West Bengal and neighboring state Orissa. We have learned again and again that tropical cyclones can have tremendous impact on life and economy of the coastal region. And our country is gifted with a long span of coastline that extends over 7,500 kilometers. We have seen that embankments, even concrete embankments, are not enough to protect man and environment from the devastations of the cyclonic storm surges and storm tides. Evacuation can save life only temporarily. Donations and relief to the cyclone hit people can sustain them for a very short period of time, but that is definitely not the solution. It is high time that a permanent and sustainable solution has to be found out. And so we from I.Q.A.C. Bangabasi Morning College felt the urge to discuss, to develop consciousness about the mangroves that are indeed the green guards of the coastal region. But in many parts of the world, various anthropogenic activities have damaged this highly sensitive but much needed ecosystem. And in turn, man has become the worst and the ultimate sufferer. So we hope that in future, successful restoration and proper management of the mangroves will protect and preserve our coastal areas from the devastating impacts of natural disasters like cyclone and tsunami. Let us look forward to a future where nature will protect us and we will nurture nature. With this positivity, let us now proceed to hear from our eminent speakers on the burning issue of mangrove conservation. Thank you and wish you all a fruitful session.
Thank you so much, madam. Hope the session will be very informative. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please put it in the chat box. We will bring them up after the presentation. To keep the quality of sound functional during the session, please mute yourself. The feedback form will be given at the end of the session, and the certificates will be generated only after filling the feedback form. Now, without further ado, I would like to start today's event by inviting our first speaker. Our first speaker is Dr. R.N. Mondal, Principal Scientist in the discipline of Economic Botany at the Indian Council of Agricultural Research, Central Institute of Freshwater Aquaculture in Rohira, Kolkata. He has published a number of articles in referred scientific journals, as well as 2 books, Ecology and Biodiversity of Indian Mangroves and Sundarban, written in Bengali vernacular language for introducing mangroves to the general public. Very recently, Dr. Mondal and Dr. R. Bar published a book named Mangroves for Building Resilience to Climate Change, a field manual, which introduces important facts about mangroves. In today's webinar, Dr. Mondal is going to speak on the topic Importance and Conservation of Mangroves. Thank you so much, sir, for gracing this webinar. Welcome, sir. Please unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. দেখো বাস এবারে hello hello
Yes, sir. You are audible.
I am audible.
Yes,
No,
sir.
screen is showing my slides.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes,
May I
sir.
start now? May I
Sure.
start now?
Sure, sir.
Okay. Namaskar. Good evening to all. It is my pleasure to share some information of mangroves to you and students, everybody. So at the beginning, I must remember late Dr. K.R. Noshkar, who is my guide and mentor. And if I speak today about mangroves, it is because of his blessings and guidance. So I must remember my teacher. So coming to the topic today is importance and conservation of mangroves, which your department has suggested to speak about. Now coming today's topic of discussion, I have divided some phases, some parts. First part, some basics, that is mangroves, mangle and its classification. Second topic, mangroves ecology and habitats, estuary division, intertidal zone, land zonation. Third, mangroves environment, common occurrence, sudden calamities. Fourth, mangroves adaptation. Fifth, mangrove diversity. Sixth, importance of mangrove, which you have provided today to deliver lecture. And seventh one, mangrove conservation, which is important in the present context. Now, today's first point I have to share with you, which is first topic, what is mangroves? Actually, we know mangroves, we talk about mangroves, but which are mangroves? Now you see the term mangroves usually defines the vegetation that occurs in the intertidal zone of coastal estuary in the tropical region of the world. It is not restricted in India, it covers the worldwide tropical region. So whenever we talk about mangrove, we must discuss three key points. One is mangrove, what type of vegetation, where it is grow, that is intertidal zone, and where it is located, that is estuary. So three important points we must discuss. So mangrove comprises different life forms of plant communities: tree, shrubs, herbs, palm, fern, and grasses. So you see different life forms of plant communities constitute mangrove. Now, what is estuary? Estuary is the meeting point of river and the sea. So this is the meeting point. Usually in that situation, mangroves grow. Now, what is the intertidal zone? Intertidal zone, you know, every day the land, that means coastal region, is flooded twice a day by tidal heights. So the maximum range tide travels, and during high tide and during ebb or low tide, maximum point it just recedes or goes down. So the zone falling between the high tide and the low tide is called the intertidal zone. So now after that I will clear everything about that. Now you see, terminology of mangroves is very interesting. You must know when we will take any conservation or important scientific program, before that we must talk about the terminology of mangroves. Mangroves are classified in different groups: true mangroves, mangrove associate, minor mangroves or back mangles, and mangrove halophytes. So true, you see the prefix word it attached to mangroves. Which are true? True is true. That means the mangroves which have some specific criteria to grow in the estuarine belt or intertidal zone. That means pneumatophore, that is tilled root, their vivipary germination, their salt regulation mechanism. The plants which have such type of character are classified as true mangroves. Then which are mangroves associates? Mangroves associate the plants which may have or may not have such characters, but they go in association with true mangroves. They are mangroves but associates. Now, which are back mangles? There are some plants which cannot, which are not found to growing in mangroves area, but periphery of the mangrove zone they grow. These are the back mangles. Now, I think you clear the classification of the mangrove. Now, mangrove halophytes. There are certain numbers of plants, particularly herbal communities, herbs. They grow in the tidal region and the mangrove area. These are called the mangrove halophytes. That means salt tolerating plants, herbal plants. So now you see, then what is mangle? You see, there is a clear-cut definition and differentiation, mangroves and mangle. Whenever we talk about mangroves, it certainly refers to the plant communities. But what about mangle? Mangles mean ecosystem.
Sir, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Really sorry. Are you changing the slides?
Yes.
Okay, because some other screen is shared where we are only seeing the front, your front slide, your title slide.
Oh no, I am sharing. It is not showing.
No, sir. Actually, when you are sharing the window, you will get two options. One is the slide and another is the slideshow that is going on. So you'll have to share the slideshow.
Oh, slideshow, no? Okay. Oh, I am coming. Hey, Babu! যদি ওটা বলছে ফিক্সড স্লাইড হয়ে গেছে, স্লাইড শোটা করাচ্ছে না, দেখ দেখি।
না আসলে
হ্যাঁ, জাস্ট ইউ গাইড।
হ্যাঁ, আসলে স্লাইডটা মানে স্লাইড শো মোডে আসছে না, এমনি স্লাইডটা আসছে যখন শেয়ার করছে।
হ্যাঁ, নাও ইট ইজ কামিং, নো? আই এম
এখনো ওই মোডেই এসছে। এটা মানে স্লাইড শো করে তারপরে হ্যাঁ এইভাবে দেখালেও বোঝা যাবে, এইভাবে চেঞ্জ করলেও হবে।
না এইভাবে না, আমি যেটা বলছি, আমি যদি ফুল স্ক্রিন দেই, ধরুন এইভাবে, ঠিক আছে? এইভাবে
হ্যাঁ আসছে, পারফেক্ট।
ওকে।
থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার, থ্যাংক ইউ সো মাচ।
Thank you for your point out. Okay, now you see here is two mangroves, mangrove associates and mangrove halophytes. I have already discussed about them. Now, what is mangles? Can you see now? Slides, new slides. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, what is mangle? You see, mangroves usually refers to a plant communities. There are varieties of plant communities I have already talked about. So these are the mangroves. Now, when we are talking about mangles means as a whole ecosystem. That means there is a plant communities, animal communities, microbes, and ecological compartments, ecological elements. So all together are called mangle. But usually we use the term ecosystem. Now you see the topic 2, mangrove ecology and habitat. Now I am giving the pictures of mangrove habitats. You see, this is the estuary, meeting point of a river and a sea water. This is the estuary mount. So whenever we see the tidal ingression or river flow from the upward to downward, there is a upstream, midstream, and downstream. So now this way we can divide the river coming and meeting to the sea, this region. Now this is the vertical from upside to downside. Now again, if you see the horizontal line, there is a intertidal zone. That means the sea water or river water travel a certain distance. So this distance, the maximum distance it travel and the minimum distance it goes down during the low tide. This region fall under intertidal zone. Now you are clear. So intertidal zone is divided again 3 regions. One is mudflat region, second one is consolidated region, third one is stable land. That means stable land, consolidated land, and mudflat land. This is the 3 zone intertidal region. Now you see next slide. Now here you see usually mud-fed region, all the plants which grow there, they are completely flooded every day because tidal flow every time reach and flood total plant area. But consolidated land and stable land, they not frequently flooded. Sometimes when high tidal or tidal range is maximum, then it can flood consolidated land and the stable land. So this is the intertidal zone and the estuary where mangrove grow. This is very important to know because when we will take any conservation program, it is obviously to be considered for their zonation. Now it is you see the tidal fluctuation. Actually, maximum tide range or tide travel during the full moon, and the minimum in between the new moon and the full moon, minimum distance they can travel. So now you see when full moon is there, the mangroves are flooded. All types of mangroves are usually flooded. But when in between new moon and full moon is there, so they may not be flooded. All the plants may not be flooded. So this is the tidal fluctuation and their variation and their effect in case of mangroves. Now see vegetative succession. This is very important. If you go and reach any mangrove region, you can this type of situation. You see here mud-flat land. Mud-flat land means if you see any river in the mangrove area, one side it is a siltation, and just another side you can see the land erosion. It is a two different opposite occurrence or climate or occurrence or land erosion and land acquisition is happening simultaneously. So when there is a mud-flat land or land acquisition, different type of plants community is there. When there is a consolidated zone, that means soil is getting consolidated. You can find mangroves, diverse mangrove species are there. Maximum diversity you can find here. Again, when the soil or the earth reaching the stable land, you can see the soil is getting eroded. That is the climax position the soil has reached. So after that, it gets eroded. So now the special type of plant, only special type of plant community you can find. So now when you take any conservation program and any restoration program, you must consider which part is land formation, which part is consolidated land, and which part is land erosion, because particular case or particular habitat, particular space, particular species are able to grow. Now topic 3, we are coming to mangrove environment. So this is very important. You see, now we are talking about mangroves ecology, then mangroves environment. I can put one example. You see, in football ground, one player is playing with football. That means one football is a abiotic element if you consider, and man is a biotic component. They are playing, they have interaction, and the man has capable to play with football or to control with football. But there is some unseen situation. Suppose play is happening in the Darjeeling area. That means any cold storm can happen. The football playing is held in Rajasthan area. Very wind storm or very sandy storm may happen. So there is an environment you cannot control them. So here mangrove is growing and it has specific ecological interaction, but there are environment which is very dynamic. You see cyclone storm is there, tidal surges is there, land erosion is there, land acquisition is there, tsunami is there, salt encrust is there, tidal ingression, tidal flooding, tidal degradation. So the mangrove grow in such a habitat which is continuously affected by dynamic environmental conditions. So you cannot avoid them. So mangroves are adapted to withstand such calamities, such adversity situation. So whenever we will take any conservation program, we must consider the mangrove environment and what condition is prevailing in that situation. Now, major functional elements. So whenever you talk any environmental condition, we must consider 3 points: mangrove environment, mangrove ecosystem, and mangrove. Here is the main player: mangrove environment. It will determine which mangroves will be there, and based on that, what mangrove ecosystem will be existing or prevailing, or will continue or destroy. So this is the condition, 3 points: mangrove environment, mangrove ecosystem, and mangroves. So now, whenever we'll take any conservation program, so we must consider 3 important points. Now you see mangrove ecosystem. Here, mangrove environment actually guides the mangrove vegetation, whether it will be there or not. Then again, mangrove diversity. So based on vegetation, mangrove diversity is existing. I just give one example. Suppose 5 months back you visit Sundarban area, you can find one mangrove vegetation. Now after years, if you go and see, that mangrove vegetation may not be there. That means it is so dynamic. The area 5 months back you can find mangrove vegetation. Today you cannot find such a mangrove vegetation. That means it is just uprooted or destroyed. Now after 5 months, if you go, new type of mangrove plants are going there. That means different mangrove diversity you can find there. So this is the interesting matter. Everything is related and integrated with time and space. Okay. Now I am coming to different environmental factors. There are different environmental settings. Setting 1, you can consider tidal height. Maximum tidal height is there. So you can find some mangroves going there. They are having having steel roots. Steel roots mean what? They can withstand the land, the sea surges, tidal strong surges. Even if land eroded is there, they can protect the plant to withstand there. Now high salinity and anoxia. You can find some area very physiological dry soil. Their air space in soil, nothing. No air space you can find in the soil. They can develop some pneumatophore to inhale oxygen. So this is the situation. Here land accretion, new siltation is there. So immediately grass vegetation will go there. So here tidal ingression and anoxia is there. You can find some seeds are getting germinated while fruit attached with mother plant, because they need to protect their progeny. So this is the condition, various conditions you can find in the mangroves zone, and you can be astonished how mangrove plants are differently they are adjusted to withstand in adverse condition. Not that every plant is having all sorts of adaptation. Not that. There are specific plants, they have a specific adaptation mechanism, and they grow in the specific habitat. Not that every habitat is accommodable for every plant. Not that. So now, topic 4, here I can say the adaptation. This is very important. You see, plant communities, when they go in such adverse and fragile environmental condition, every time they adapt, they adapt, and they know how to overcome or how to withstand in such a very fragile environmental condition. There are adaptation 2 types. One is physiological, another is mechanical. Here you can find, you see, rooting pattern. When there is a steel root, you see root buttress, here pneumatophore. All are adopted here for mechanical support, to provide mechanical support to the particular plant. Because you see how the steel roots are developed surrounding the plant, and they can protect, they can enable plant to grow in such a condition. Even land erosion is there, they can also survive. This is the condition. You see, land is eroded, upper layer of soil is eroded, but still the cable root is there, from their pneumatophore is enlarges. So this way they enable the plant to grow and to establish there. Now here again you see the physiological process. Here you see the crack here the lenticels. So in that case, the plant inhale oxygen from the air. Here you see aerial root. Here also same. The habitat is anoxia. Without oxygen, they can take oxygen from the outside. Here you see some pneumatophores, particularly Sonaracea plants. They have developed pigment condition, green pigment. So by this way, they can take carbon dioxide and they develop and they manufacture the carbohydrate foods by the way of photosynthesis. Here you see again the plants growing big areas and enormous number of pneumatophores to inhale oxygen. So all these they have adopted, they have developed, and they have modified because of their way of physiological functioning. Now yes, here rooting pattern, different type of rooting pattern you can find. Here you see cable root, then you pneumatophore, knee roots, steel roots, broom-like roots, crop roots, aerial roots, buttress. All these roots are developed because of providing mechanical support to the specific or certain plants from which they develop. You see leaf anatomy. Again, this is an important physiological purpose. You see, sometimes you may have a question, how mangroves are adapting in the saline regime, high salinity condition, how they grow. If you put our mesophytic plant or even for any plant in Calcutta, if you grow there, they cannot survive because they don't have any mechanism to release the excess salt. Here you see in leaf, there are three-way by which plant can release or excrete their excess salt. The three salt regulation processes there. One is salt exclusion, and salt accumulation. Now, I am just discussing one by one. Salt exclusion means what? That means plant, they accumulate excess salt through their root. Then it is stored in their certain organ, that is the salt gland. When it is full of salt, then the salt gland bursts and the salt is removed in the form of crystals. This is the salt exclusion. What is salt exclusion? Salt exclusion means the root develop a ultrafiltration mechanism by which they have capability to filtrate the only water along with some requirement of salt, not all salt. Immediately they can filtrate. That means that you have a home, you have capability to whom you just give chance to enter your room, and to whom you cannot allow to you prohibit not to allow in your room. This is the mechanism they can develop. It is their mechanism, physiological mechanism by way they can eliminate excess salt. Now salt accumulation, what is this? They accumulate excess salt. They can accumulate. Now what they do? They store in such tissue, palisade parenchyma tissue, aqueous parenchyma tissue. All those tissues they develop where they can store the excess salt. So this salt, when the plant get matured and through their abscission, the leaf fall and the salt release. So if you see such type of leaf, you can find the succulency. That means the leaf succulent, just a tholthole, this type of plant you can find. That means these plants are able to store excess salt. Now steel root you see, here also steel root. Now mangrove diversity, this is the distribution of mangroves in India. You see here, India is famous to home of mangroves, different type of mangroves. You see, there is a two important region, west coast and east coast. In east coast, you can find four regions: Sundarban, Vitorkonika, then Godavari and Krishna, then Mathupet or Kaveri estuary. Four important regions. And here another island. This is Andaman and Nicobar Islands. In west coast, you can find this is a Kerala, this is a Karnataka, Mangalore, this is a Goa, this is a Bombay, this is a Bhavnagar. So you see here 5 region, major region, and here 4 major regions, then Lakshadweep. So if you find the East Coast region having maximum diversity, luxuriant mangrove than that of West Coast region. If you see, we have published a paper and we have made a relative diversity, and we have shown that Sundarban forest have maximum diversity 90%, followed by Andaman and Nicobar Islands 76.5, and then Vitorkonika third one 72.3. If you see the diversity index, you can find East coast of India is having maximum diversity, luxuriant mangroves than that of the West coast. Here you see we just develop a index how to measure the diversity of mangrove. So this is a relative mangrove diversity. It is published in Tropical Ecology, and based on the index, we have classified 82 species recorded in India, and they belong to 54 genera and 36 families. Now coming to the distribution of mangroves in the world, if you see, there are two important hemispheres. One is Old World. This is the Indo-West Pacific region. Another is New World, Atlantic East Pacific region. Indo-West Pacific region again comprises 3 zones: Australasia, Indo-Malaysia, Eastern Africa, Madagascar. Their limit, geographical limit is there. And again, Atlantic Eastern Pacific 3 region is there: West Africa, Eastern America, Western. They also their geographical limit is there. Now you see the picture here. So this is the middle of this portion is the New World. That means Atlantic East Pacific region, and here Indo-West Pacific region. This is the East and West. You can find that every time that is Old World is having maximum number of diversity than that of the New World. Here you see the diversity of mangroves in the world. Tomlinson first time classified or measured 48 mangroves worldwide, 40 from Old World, 8 from New World. Again, Latham, Rickfelets and Latham, they have 54 mangroves they have classified. 70, Duke 1998, 70 mangroves they have classified. They have enumerated 70 mangroves. Sengar 84 mangroves. Trist, they 50 mangroves. Polirado et al. 70 mangroves. Now year-wise, chronological year-wise, I have considered. Again, myself and Dr. Bohr, we have classified 70 mangroves. Now it is published in the Apple Academic Press, Mangroves for the Building Resiliency in Climate Change. Now, topic 6, importance of mangrove. For this topic, so today it is our topic of discussion. But before that, I just make a glimpse of what is mangrove, what is their adapting capability, adapting features, and habitats, environments like that. You see, ecosystem service by mangroves, very important. That means mangroves provide some services for which our coastal people and we survive. This is important. So ecosystem service of mangroves are classified in 3 types. That is direct use, indirect use, and symbolic use. What is direct use? You see, coastal area very often encounter tsunami and devastating cyclonic storm. If you think, if there is no mangrove zone, then speed of the cyclonic speed could reach Kolkata and damage havoc in the people and the assets of Kolkata. So now it is the mangrove which just reduce the speed. You can understand when the cyclonic storm is coming 140 or 150 by kilometer speed, it is the mangrove just it can reduce and mitigate. Just you can have an example, a terrorist is coming with a strong weapon and he is firing a leader or something else. It is the leader guards, they are immediately gun down the man. So here you see mangrove ecosystem, they are putting a coastal army, they are behave as a coastal guard when the speed of the cyclone is coming and hit the mangrove, it is mangrove which is destroying themselves but protecting the human beings are inhabiting in and around the coastal belt. So this is the direct service we can find. This is the direct service, but there are huge indirect service. What is that? You see here, when mangroves grow in the coastal belt, it is able to utilize carbon dioxide, which is the greenhouse, which is one of the greenhouse. How? Now, through photosynthesis, carbon or carbon dioxide is utilized. That means they act as a carbon sink. So by this way, they mitigate or ameliorate the greenhouse gases. So it is the one important criteria of their indirect use we cannot find, but it is there. So again, you see mangroves, mangroves roots, mangrove leaves, mangroves branches, when they fall in soil, they get decomposed by the microbes. And then huge amount of nutrients are getting released and they are mixing with the soil and then the water. That is why mangrove ecosystem are so productive and they maintain varieties of food web and food chain. That is why varieties of animals and plants and fisheries are maintaining their breeding ground, nursery ground, and grow-out system in the mangrove area. This is the most diverse ecosystem in the world. So this is the indirect use we may not see, but it is there. For this, mangrove region is stable, virgin, and productive. That means you can consider, suppose you are coming from your home, a one rickshaw, you are putting 10 rupees and he is dropping your main road. Then you are getting into a bus, riding into a bus, then you are going and you are putting into the, he is dropping into your college side, then you are entering the college. That means when you are going from your home to reaching your college, there are so many conveyance, a rickshaw puller, a bus driver, bus, they are giving the service for which we are surviving. But we cannot consider, I think I am putting 10 rupees, that is fine, not bad. For their service, we are surviving. So there is an enormous service provided by the mangrove for which the ecosystem it exists. Now, symbolic use. Symbolic use means, you see, you cannot like the Calcutta, the pollution, the hot weather, you may not like. So you then what you think? You are thinking to have your ecstasy in the mangrove area. You are going to mangrove area for your relaxation. And mangroves, if you see greenery, plants, animal interaction, water, so many things. You feel enjoyment. You have your ecstasy. That is the symbolic use we cannot consider. But it is the forest. They are staying as such, can provide you so many happiness, so many enjoyment to you for your benefit. So this is the symbolic use we may not consider, but it is there. So this way, it is a huge ecosystem service provided, rendered by mangrove forest. Now you see nutrient dynamics of the mangroves. Now mangroves is there, litter is there, decomposers, release of nutrients, protozoa, arthropods, trophic level, herbivores, like that. A food web and food chain is working. At the end, it is reaching to the top consumer, top carnivores. Again, it is decomposed and fecal matter, so many things. This way, a cycle is continuously moving. That is why mangrove system is productive and it is providing different types of food, different types of daily household items, which people are collecting from mangrove area. You see the destruction of the mangrove zone. And here you see man collecting fishery resources from mangrove area. Here a village lady collecting firewood from mangrove zone. Here you see the across the age from child to old, they are just collecting fishery resources from mangrove area. A lady is collecting firewood from mangrove zone. A lady is waiting to catch a crab, and here one lady is collecting crab and going to home. So these are the resources mangrove provides and for which people are living and established. Now we have here collection of different resources this is happening from mangrove area. Now you see my last topic, mangroves conservation. Okay, I am coming to the end of the time. Succession of trans-boundary Sundarban, you see succession. Here, you can find, if you consider Sundarban area, it is extended from Sagar Island, India, to Baleshwar River, Bangladesh. To Baleshwar River, Bangladesh is a long stretch, 190-kilometer distance. You see, but in the long distance, there is a differentiation of salinity. In our condition, it is a polyhaline zone. Strong saline belt is there. If you go Bangladesh area, you can find mesohaline, moderate amount of salinity. But extreme east of the Bangladesh area, we can find oligosaline region. Not that every species can grow every area. It is not that. Or every habitat can allow every species to grow there. It is the habitat, they have choice, they allow particular plants to grow there. Vice versa, there are different plants, each has a different adaptation ability to grow a specific habitat. So nature has decided, nature has controlled what plant will go where. And it is the mangrove environment, if you do not follow their criteria, if you deviate the mangrove rules, what will happen? The environment it is act as a referee. It will give you foul, and so the plant will destroy. The plant cannot survive there. So be careful when you take conservation program. You must follow their successional pattern. Then anything conservation program will be successful. You see, this is the Bangladesh and the Indian part. Again, you see the salinity region, urihaline, polyhaline, urihaline, then the oligohaline. Now you see, there is a huge number of propagules. Propagules means this is the future progeny of the mangrove. They fall in the water and they grow in the mangrove habitat. But when they grow, you must consider few things: water current, salinity, tidal flow, land bed, competition for nutrients. It is not that every propagulus will go everywhere. That is why I have again and again discussing the matter. Because of you are the generation, you will take precaution whether everywhere mangrove can grow or they have a specific region. That means what? Suppose I am giving one example. Your room is one house is there. Your house is there. Your specific area is earmarked for kitchen and bedroom, the study room, like that. If you put the kitchen and you force him to have his study, it is not possible. Like that, if you take a kitchen and you make your cooking, it is not possible. So you must follow the rule of the mangroves habits and their succession. Then any conservation program will be successful. Now you see their tidal height, tidal enunciation, and salinity. See, major criteria will determine which plant will go in which condition, to which condition. Now you see silviculture practice. Some government organization is there. They are collecting the seeds and they are making the bed, and there they can culture the seedlings and seedlings. Here, suggestion to ponder. I put some suggestion for your thinking. It is the environment to determine the condition to which mangroves exist. Again and again, I am emphasizing, it is the environment to determine the condition to which mangroves exist. If you think that everywhere, anywhere, you can put mangroves to grow, it may not be possible. You can force them. Your son, your student is very much accommodated to have a Bengali to study, but being a father, you are thinking you force your son or daughter to have a science because of service, because of his something job. It is not possible. Then what will happen? You know, the persons, your work will just fail. So this is the condition. Government is taking and huge number of mangroves for the afforestation program, but it may not be successful because you need a scientific endeavor, scientific environmental rule, mangrove habit condition. Follow the natural condition to which specific mangroves are suitably befitted. Plantation to be undertaken accordingly. Otherwise, adverse situation occurs to devastate mangrove vegetation. I am on giving example. One land is very much frequently eroded due to tidal thrust. If you put some other plants, they cannot survive. You require to put some rhizophora, some Bruguiera, which can develop their steel root and they can survive there. If you put Abyssinia, they may not grow well there. So specific mangroves require certain condition to grow, or else its growth is affected. Even if you put there for their growth, its growth may not be its growth may suffer because certain conditions they require, certain nutrients they require. But if you cannot provide, they may not grow. Just like your son, you are putting in the odd condition. A place need to be developed as a refuge so that replaced mangroves may have chance to regenerate. One important thing is there. Suppose you are taking afforestation program, some part, some pocket of the mangroves region need to be vacant. Why? Now there are natural mangrove seedlings. They will come and occupy that place. If you do not put any vacant place, what will happen? They will immediately destroy. They will not find any place to their growth, to their establishment. So this is the condition. When you take any plantation program, you must put a vacant place where the natural regeneration or seedlings come and stay and establish their future growth. A number of ecological parks to be established to accommodate threatened flora to survive. This is very important. What? You see, there are some plants, when there is a competition, some plants become threatened or endangered. In such case, it is duty of the forest managers or botanists or ecologists. They collect the seeds or seedlings of the threatened plants and they put a specific area, enclave or enclosure where it can grow and it may avoid the competition of the other plants. So now the last point, what happened, honest expertise is essential to protect mangroves, not to the hand of so-called planners without knowledge of mangroves adaptation. That is why you take the mangrove conservation, mangrove plantation, everything fine, but you must consult the expert. Expert can guide you properly which area is suitable for what mangrove. So our source of information, 3 important books, Ecology and Biodiversity of Indian Mangroves, then Sundarban, one Bengali. This book is written by my teacher Kumud Ranjan Noskor and myself. Again, a Bengali book, Kumud Ranjan Noskor, which is edited by Devdut Ghosh Thakur, the chief reporter of Anandabazar Putrika, and myself. And another book recently published, 2018, Mangroves for Building Resiliency to Climate Change. How to know the mangroves, what condition mangroves go, what is the Mangroves Conservation Program. It is written by myself and Dr. Boy, your teacher, 2019. So let's protect mangrove. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for giving me time to share some experience, some knowledge, some information with you. Thank you very much. Good evening.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving your valuable insights on the topic. Now it's question answer session. So there's a question. The question is, sir, what are the main reasons of mangrove depletion and what will be the most productive way to restore them?
Already I discussed this point, but one thing, mangrove, if you consider particularly Sundarban area, now mangrove destruction is not there. Satellite imagery photo is showing, and we have published a paper. Since 1980, there is no mangrove destruction, no depletion is happening in the mangrove because there is a strict forest rule and they are implementing very strictly, so by which they are protecting the mangrove. So no mangrove destruction, depletion is there since 1980. This is one. This is your first question. Then second question, so many times I have probably discussed, because every mangrove grow in a specific ecological niche. I told you, no, your room, your house, there are 4-5 rooms. One specific room is earmarked for the specific function, kitchen for the cooking. So now question is that now it is a you may feel that suppose one plant grow in low salinity, you select that plant and put it the low salinity here. If you put a high saline growing plant in the low saline area, it may not grow well. Again, vice versa. One plant grow in a low saline zone, but you are putting it a high saline zone, it may not grow well, it may die. So this is the reason. So you must know the ecological condition, their niche, their adaptation, their three important things you must consider before taking any plantation program: tidal thrust, tidal ingression, and salinity.
Okay, thank you, sir. So the next question is that after Yash, what is the condition of mangrove? That means the present scenario of the vegetation.
Sorry, actually, after years, I didn't visit the mangrove zone. So this question, I think so many papers, something is there. They are giving the report. I may have this lacuna, because I never visited mangrove region after years. Because of so many things are there. My age, one factor. Then corona is another factor, like that pandemic. So I didn't visit this area.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. We are really delighted and privileged to have you with us today. Now we will move on to the next station.
আমাকে একটা কথা বলুন।
হ্যাঁ
হ্যালো, আপনার নাম?
হ্যাঁ স্যার বলুন।
আপনার নাম কি?
আমার নাম মৌমিতা সরকার।
সরকার। মৌমিতা ম্যাডাম, আপনারা যে লেকচারটা দিলাম সেটা কি আপনাদের ঠিকঠাক পছন্দ হয়েছে বা হয়েছে? নট দ্যাট যে আরো কিছু জায়গা বলার দরকার ছিল বা বলিনি, এইরকম কিছু কি মনে হলো আপনাদের?
না স্যার, আমার তো ভালোই লেগেছে।
ঠিক আছে, ঠিক আছে, থ্যাংক ইউ ভেরি মাচ।
Thank you, sir. Now we will move on to the next session. Okay, let's look forward to some more views on the topic. And in this respect, I would like to invite our next speaker, Dr. Anirban Roy. He is a research officer in West Bengal Biodiversity Board, Department of Environment and Government of West Bengal. He is also visiting faculty in the Department of Genetics in University of Calcutta. He has 73 publications and worked in 9 projects. His research areas are mangrove diversity, biodiversity restorations, people's diversity register, macrofungal diversity and ecology, cytosociology, floristics, vegetation mapping, and many more. He has received Dr. Shambhunath De Centenary Award in February 2015 for contribution in environment conservation, conferred by Science Association of Bengal, Kolkata. Dr. Roy will speak on the topic Mangroves and Associated Flora, a glimpse of Indian Sundarban. So we are really delighted and privileged to have you in today's webinar. Welcome, sir. And
thank you.
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
I'm visible?
Yes, sir.
I'm visible?
Yes, sir, you're
Yes.
visible.
Okay, fine. Just a minute, I am sharing my presentation. My screen is visible?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
I am audible?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay, fine. So, respected principal of this college, Bangabasi Morning College, distinguished faculty members of different departments, students, my previous speaker, Dr. Mondol, other participants, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I'd like to congratulate the college authority and the organizer for organizing such an important webinar entitled Mangroves, the Coastal Girls. I would like to thank the organizer for giving me the chance, the opportunity to share my views and thoughts in this web platform. So, probably you are enlightened by the wonderful speech of Dr. Mondal. Rothinda, I know him very well, and he's an eminent worker and the successor of Dr. Noskor, the eminent expert in mangrove field. So today I would like to concentrate the mangroves and associated flora, especially a glimpse of Indian Sundarban. So, you know, the world, the only planet that is Earth is the only green planet. And the mosaic life forms is probably only in this planet. And this planet, our Mother Earth, has 75% of water, of which more than 97% is marine and only 25% is landmass. So the marine system and the terrestrial landmass is demarcated by a line, that is the marine and land interface. And this marine and land interface, which is commonly known as the coast. And if we go to our Indian landmass, we have a V-shaped structure. In the eastern part, we have the Bay of Bengal, and the western part, the Arabian Sea. And we have 7,500 kilometers of the coastline. So this entire coastal system or the coastal ecosystem, geologically, it can be divided into two parts. One is the dry coast and another is the wet coast, or you can say dry coastal ecosystem and wet coastal ecosystem. The dry coastal ecosystem is mostly the rocky coast. If we go to our western part of the country, we have the rocky coast where the cliffs and the tidal effect, the tide directly hits the cliffs or some rocky surfaces, but there is no sandy beach. But if we move to our eastern part, we will find the dry coastal part, mostly the sandy coast beach that has the sand dunes, the intertidal zone in the beach regions. But in the wet coastal ecosystem that we are like to talk in west coastal ecosystem, and Dr. Mondal also talked a lot in wet coastal ecosystem, especially in the mangrove ecosystem. So these wet coastal ecosystem has the lagoons, backwater, estuary, and delta. So backwater we will find in the Kerala region. We have several backwaters. The lagoon, probably you know, the Chilka Lake. Chilka Lake is a lagoon. Basically, it is an engulfment of the Bay of Bengal, which admixture with freshwater flow like Daya, Bhargavi, Nuna, and Rusikula. So this lagoon is an important ecosystem having both marine water as well as the freshwater flow, and it is highly productive also. Now, the estuary and delta. Estuary is actually the meeting point of the rivers into the sea, and in this estuary region, there are several deltaic settings, and you will find the estuary and delta. In the estuary and delta, a special type of plant community, which is often known as mangroves. So the mangroves are especially a group of plants. It may be a taxonomically related or unrelated, and which are growing in saline tidal flow with unstable substrate and some special physical and physiological feature that rightly mentioned Dr. Mondal. So these, I am not going into the detail of the adaptive features. So mangroves have some special features that have already been mentioned. One is the knee root, which is very important because the soil is very unstable. To anchor the soil, there's the root system, and to tide over the tidal amplitude, the wave action, tidal wave, they have to have some special type of root. That is the knee root. Sometimes to get the mechanical support, they have the steel root. And that is basically the mangrove soil. The soil in the mangrove ecosystem is mostly anoxic. So they have to have some special mechanism for the physiological mechanism. They have to have some aerial or anti-geographic root that is known as the nematophore. Another very important that already been mentioned, that is the salt excretion. And this is the leaf of Avicennia marina. And this Avicennia leaf, you will find this small salt, and these salts have been excreted by this plant. And another very important, the vivipary, that I am telling, this is important characteristic features of the mangroves, because most of the mangroves are true mangroves. They have this type of viviparous germination, because the water is saline, and always the tidal action is there. Most of the time, the tidal action is there. So if the fruit or the seed fall into the tidal action in the high saline condition, it cannot be germinated. That's why the seed is germinated within the mother's womb, that is within the fruit. And this long prolonged structure is the hypocotyle, and it is lightweight, and it floats on the wave, on the water current. And when it gets its substratum, it can establish, and ultimately the seedling will come. So this is important. So what? Because in the different species, there are the different type of hypocotyles. So the species identification, for the species identification, the hypocotyl character is one of the best characters. So that's why, just you see, in case of Bruguiera in Kakra, they have one type of. In case of Rhizophora, they have one type of, because in several hypocotyle, they are rich, they are smooth, they are glossy. And in case of Agisheras, you will find in the Kunshi, you will find the semilunar type of hypocotyle. So hypocotyle character is very important character for taxonomic identification. Now, it is very important to know that all mangrove species are not growing in all places in the mangrove ecosystem. Because Dr. Monroe has also mentioned, because they have the special type of environment. So the species have been created or have been developed based on the basis of the special type of environmental conditions. So actually, I have also mentioned earlier that for the mangrove formation, there is a very important environmental criteria is the saline tidal flow and loose substratum. So on the basis of the tidal flow and the condition of the soil, the mangrove zonation is in the different places of the mangrove ecosystem, the mangrove zonation pattern is different. Just you see in the estuarine mangrove, that means the mangrove at the sea face region, that is the near to sea, where saline tidal flow is high, the water salinity is high, tidal amplitude is high, and in that case, the special type of community, that is, that is God zone, Avicennia, Agialites, Bruguiera, Kakra, Agialites, that means the Tora. So different type of mangroves. These mangroves are growing in the outer estuarine region, that is known as the estuarine mangroves. And in the riverine regions, that means when we are coming to the upstream region, then we will find the riverine true mangrove. True mangrove, that means they have some true characters, true mangrove characters, some physiological and morphological characters like nematophore, steel proof, salt gland, just like this. So these are the true mangroves. So the area which have more creeks and canals, there's special type of special communities formed. These are the riverine true mangrove. The God zone, Rhizophora apiculata, Micranata, Hulsi, Agisheras corniculatum, Bruguiera. So I am going to detail in the taxonomic part or the introducing part of the mangroves. So these community, that is Rhizophora, Agisheras, Xylocarpus, this type of community are going in the where more creeks and canals, and they are known as the riverine true mangrove. And there are some mangroves where freshwater flow is high and the region is highly clay dominated. So this is known as the riverine semi-mangrove regions. And these riverine semi-mangrove regions are mostly dominated by, the Sundari, Gyewa, Nipa, that means Gyewa, that is Exocaria agalocha, Nipa, that means the Golpata. So sometimes some plants, they can have some extended extended area. That means they are going in the semi-mangrove regions, riverine semi-mangrove region, as well as in the riverine true mangrove regions. So they have the larger expansion of the area in case of their occurrence and distribution. And another one is the riverine transitional mangrove. That means the area which is influenced by high spring tide. And in that case, the saline water is less, and here special type of mangrove associates. These are not the true mangrove associates. They are growing. That is Clerodendron, Acanthus, Hortcoch, Thespacia, Habul. This type of mangrove you can find in the Sundarban. If you go to the Sundarban, in the hinterland region or in the back mangrove region where the salinity is very less, only during the spring tide, the tidal amplitude is there. So in that case, a special type of community is going, which is known as the riverine transitional mangrove. Now, these 4 phases of developmental structures are well observed in Sundarban. Am I audible? Anyone can respond?
Yes, sir, you are
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Fine. So these 4 phases of developmental structures are well observed in Sundarban. And now talking about the Sundarban, Sundarban is the World Heritage Site, and this is the largest mangrove ecosystem in the world, the largest delta. And the Sundarban is in India, it has 4,200 square kilometer area, and in Bangladesh, it has 6,800 square kilometer area. So it is not only the World Heritage Site, but recently it has been identified as the Ramsar Site. It is the national park. It is biosphere reserve, the wildlife sanctuary. So all sorts of that means biosphere reserve, sanctuary. So all are within the Sundarban. So Sundarban is designated as the mostly as the world scenario. It has a remarkable point in the world scenario because it is a World Heritage Site. And this Sundarban is optimum habitat for mangrove flora, because already mentioned, the Sundarban is such a landmass. It is the active delta is there, and it is basically the river flow, freshwater, Ganga and Brahmaputra. So this Ganga Brahmaputra riverine flow is there. So such condition is prevailing in the Sundarban, both in Bangladesh and in Indian part of Sundarban. That's why it is nurturing the mosaic of mangrove floristic components or the mangrove diversity. Sundarban is rich in floral diversity due to its habitat diversity, due to its salinity, different type of salinity, different flow of fresh water. So it is very rich in floral diversity due to the variation of the conditions, variation of the ecological niches and the habitats. It is very rich in the floral components. So far known, mangrove and associates 140 species under 59 families and 101 genera, according to Sharma and Noskar. Now let us introduce some mangroves of Indian Sundarbans, which are very interesting. So now we can move to introducing some mangroves. So this is a gorgon, Rhizophora micronata, because its leaf has micronate leaf, that is some extended pointed leaf apex. And this Rhizophora micronata, there are so many species of Rhizophora micronata, Rhizophora apiculata, and it has the tail fruit. So it can support, it can give the mechanical support, it can provide the mechanical support to this plant, and it can withstand the high wave action. You just see the lower part, just like a building, you just see the lower part has no branching pattern, only some root are there that give extra protection as well as extra mechanical support to this plant. And this plant architecture is different. Architecture is somewhat the pyramidal structure, so it also withstand some wind wave also. It is another one that is known as in Bengali it is kankra, local name is kankra. It is Bruguiera gymnorrhiza. Why it is kankra? Because it's this one is the fruit, and this green part, like the lady's finger, it is the hypocotyl. And this red part, that is the fruit part, which is just like the crab-like structure. That's why it is commonly known as in Bengali kankra or Bruguiera gymnorrhiza. This is very important plant in Sundarban. This is, in Bengali it is Giwa. Probably you have read in your school book, that is Giwa. And this Giwa, or that is Exocaria galocha, it has the extensive root system or the serpentine root system, because the mangrove is very stressful habitat, so it can anchor the soil. So to withstand this extreme climatic condition, extreme edaphic condition, it has to have this type of serpentine root, this type of knee root, by which they can bind the soil. And it has also male and female plant. Male and female plant. This is the female plant. And the extreme left, this one is the Tora or Agialitis rotantifolia. It is very important to see that its basal structure is like pyramidal structure, because it has the tidal amplitude. So to overcome this high tide, the basal structure is somewhat flattened or pyramidal, or that is pyramidal like structure, and the upper portion is somewhat narrow. So this is the Agialitis rotandifolia, and this Agialitis rotandifolia is also growing in clump, not an isolated form. And this one very important. It is a Kunshi. You have probably heard this name, the Kunshi, because the honey of Kunshi is world famous. So this honey is produced from this plant, that is Kunshi, and this Kunshi, that is Agisceras corniculatum. This Kunshi is growing not isolated form. Probably it is growing in the troops or in the associated form, because in the mangrove, if one plant is growing isolated condition, it cannot survive. So they always grow in the troops. They always grow in the associated form. And this is the beautiful flower of the Kunshi. And one interesting thing I'd like to mention, that is the mangrove is such a habitat where only one species of the family Mycinaceae, that is the Agisceras corniculatum of Kunshi, only a single species, because the Mycinaceae have so far 68 species in India, but only a single species is growing here. Just like in the Plumbaginaceae family, only a single species, Agialitis rotandifolia, is growing in the mangrove habitat. So this is the only species that is growing in this particular habitat. So this is also important from the taxonomic point of view. Now, probably you have heard this Hetal, because the Hetal, because the Hetal is the Hetal community, where there is Hetal community. It is basically the tiger den, because it is basically a palm, just like a dead palm, but its stature, the height is very less, not like the dead palm. But they are also growing in associated form, and mostly they are growing in uplifted land. So in the mature island, at the top of the island, they are growing, and the tiger is selecting that place because the tide is not coming to the uplifted regions. And another thing is, its leaf is of two color. That means the mature leaf is yellow and the young leaf is green. So the tiger can camouflage in this Hetal forest. So the tiger skin color and the color of Hetal leaf is basically shame. That's why they can hide for their prey. Another important palm is, the gold pata or the Nipa fruticans. It is very similar to the coconut plant. This is very similar to red palm or the khejur, and this is very similar to our coconut plant, but its height is very less. And it is basically going where there is a fresh water flow is high, and along the creeks these are going. This is from the Kathiawadi area, and this is the creek, and this is the river. Just in the riverine region, that means that at the bank of the river, immediate back to the river, it is growing, and its fruit is very lovely and very similar to the coconut. And the local people also take the sap of this fruit, just like the coconut. Another important mangrove plant is the bani. Probably bani. And bani have the three species: Abyssinia alba, Abyssinia officinalis, and Abyssinia marina. Abyssinia marina, which is commonly known as the piara vine, because the bark of the tree is very much similar to our guava, that is known as the piara vine. And this Abyssinia marina is going where salinity is high. Mostly, it has two varieties: Abyssinia marina, variety marina, and Abyssinia variety acutissima. That means the leaf apex somewhat acute, but this leaf apex is not acute; it is obtuse, that is blunt leaf apex. So this Abyssinia marina is mostly growing in high salinity conditions, and when the sea-facing region, so near to coast, near to the beach regions or the estuarine regions, these plants are somewhat short in stature, and sometimes their leaf is acuminata. And this is the color vine, Abyssinia alba, because this leaf color is somewhat black and the leaf is narrow. And another one is the Abyssinia officinalis. Abyssinia officinalis is somewhat robust, and its height is also very high, and the woody trunk is also the girth is very also high. That's why the three species of Abyssinia is going in the Sundarban, and it is mainly dominated by the two species, Abyssinia marina as well as Abyssinia alba. And also this Abyssinia leaf is also good fodder for the cattle and other domestic animals. You probably have heard the name of Cauda. Cauda have several species. This is the Soneraceae cassularis or chalk cauda, because this is the fruit. This is chalk, that is the spherical shape, and this Soneraceae cassularis, which is loving somewhat freshwater conditions. So this species you can find also in our the bank of the Ganga, because if the salinity is increasing, so in some places in Howrah, in Hooghly, mostly in Howrah regions, you will find this Soneraceae cassularis. And Soneraceae alba and Soneraceae griffithii, there are so many species. And ethnically, this is very important, because local people, this fruit are eaten, or the chutney is being prepared from this fruit, or the pickles are prepared. So this is ethnically very important, because there are several dishes are formed from this chalk cauda and choto chalk cauda, that is Soneraceae alba. So another, probably you have heard, that is the goran. And goran is also two types of species, two species. One is the jhati goran and one is the mott goran. Jhati, that means it is not the pyramidal shape, it is the straight shape. And it is the Sundarban. It is mostly growing at the just banky regions, and they are also forming their dense population. And this Jhati Goran, another one is that is the Mott Goran. Mott, that means the temple-like structure, pyramidal structure. So I have no the photograph. I have not the photograph. That's why I can show this Seriops Tajel, and this is the Seriops decandra, which is also very important in the mangrove ecosystem, because it has important role for the soil binding and for checking the soil erosion. Another plant, probably you have not heard this one. This is not so frequent. This is the creeper, or this is the Lumnigera litoria, or Illuminate racemosa, because it is the racemose inflorescence. So you will find also in several places, if you go to the Sundarban region, this Illuminate racemosa will also find. Another important plant which is known as the Posur and also the Dhundhul. Basically that this Dilocarpus mollusensis and Dilocarpus granatum. Granatum is the Dhundhul. In Bengal it is Dhundhul. The fruit is just like the cannonball, but the fruit is somewhat smaller size in case of Dilocarpus mollusensis, but the fruit is larger in case of Dilocarpus granatum. But from the distant place, it can be identified. The Posur, the leaf is deep green, but the Dhundhul, the leaf is not so deep. So from the distance, you can identify which one is the Posur and which one is the structure is like that, and the color of the leaf is like that. You can easily identify from the distant places which one is the Posur and which one is the Dhundhul. So this is the Dilocarpus mollusensis. Probably you have heard this plant because this plant is very famous, and local people they told us the name of the Sundarban is derived from this plant, that is the Sundari or the Heritiera fomis. And the Heritiera fomis is not growing in extreme saline condition, so it likes the freshwater flow. And the leaf is very interesting. The upper surface of the leaf is very glossy, but the lower surface is silvery. So when wind blows, you can find the leaf that is the dual in color, green and white. So from the distant places, you can identify it is Heritiera, and the flower is very beautiful. And there are several pollinators which are also coming for this fragrance of Heritiera fomis. So these are the mangroves, but there are some plants which are not truly mangrove, but they are associated with the mangrove plants or the mangroves. One of them is the dhani ghas. Dr. Mongol is also saying during the succession of the mangroves, when a chor or island is forming, firstly some algae are coming and they stabilize the soil. After that, a pioneer plant is coming, that is the dhani ghas or Poteraceae or Oryza. So it is basically a wild relative of our dhan, that is Oryza paddy, but it is saline tolerant. So research is going on that it has some saline tolerance gene, and this gene can be isolated, and the research is going on to use this gene in our traditional varieties for withstanding the high saline conditions, or to develop the saline tolerant crop, saline tolerant paddy. So this is important in the Sundarban, not only from the ecological point of view, but also it has immense potentiality for developing the improved variety. Another one is, in the back, it is mostly in the back mangrove, back part of it is found, that is the pandanus, that is Kia, and sometimes that is habul. This is also growing. There are not truly mangrove. Some hijol gach, that means the Barringtonia. These are also growing. In Kolkata also you will find the hijol. So basically Kolkata once was the part of the mangrove. Up to Barakpur it was mangrove, because the megafossil as well as the microfossil that reveals the study of the megafossil and microfossil reveals that up to Barakpur it was the fully covered by the mangrove populations. So the pollens as well as the megafossils also identified by several workers. Now, in the mangrove ecosystem, one fern is growing, which is in Bengali commonly known as Odo, that is Acrosticum aureum. Aureum, that means it has the golden color. The upper part of the leaf is the golden color. This is very interesting. Upper part of the leaf is golden color when it matures, and the lower part is the brown color because it is the floral part. Because it is non-flowering plant, is the floral part. So the only mangrove fern in growing in the Sundarban that is the Acrosticum aureum or the hodo. Now, some macromarine algae are also growing in the Sundarban, which is known as the seaweeds. So far known 24 species of seaweeds are growing in Sundarban according to Sensorter. And you know, this is the red algae Catanilla. This is it is one green algae, that is Enteromorpha intestinalis, because its the filament is just like intestine. And this is also red algae. And some plant which is growing in the sea. So it is also not algae. Just a minute. Yes, my screen is. Hello.
Yes, sir. Sir, the screen is visible.
Okay, fine. So this is basically a group of plant which is basically angiosperm and monocot. These are growing in the sea, which is known as the sea grass. It is not basically grass. It is a family, Cotamogitanaceae family. Some group of plants are growing, Cotamogitanaceae and other families are there, basically monocot. And this is known as the sea grass. In the east coast and as well as in the west coast, in the backwater, in the lagoons, in the Chilka Lake, you'll find some seagrass. But in Sundarban, one seagrass is growing, which is known as the Upia maritima. It is basically a submerged plant in Sundarban and in some coastal areas, some canals of East Midnapur, in the Digha Shankarpur coastal area, it is also found. So it is interesting that only one seagrass is growing, because it is also very important habitat for several insects, aquatic insects, and other fishes. Another important associates are the salt marshes. So far known 7 species of salt marshes are found in Sundarban. And the salt marsh, that means when the soil is highly saline, the saline incrustation is there. So in that case, there are special type of plants, mainly succulents, they are growing in the Sundarban, which is known as the salt marsh. And this is very important because when salt marsh is growing, generally, the other mangroves are not growing. But when these plants are growing and removing the salts, it makes the conducive condition for inviting the other mangroves. So, you know, this is the Salicornia brachyata. Salicornia brachyata, it is an important salt marsh. This is Jodupalong in Bengali, that is Sesubium portulacastrum. It is also a crustacean acid metabolism plant, CAM plant. And this is the Tamarix taupi. There's Nuna Jhau. It is basically the structure is like that of the Casuarina, but it is Nuna Jhau, it is a salt marsh, and it is also growing high saline conditions. It is another Heliotropium, you know, the Hatishmur in Bengali, but the Hatishmur is Heliotropium indicum, which is commonly found here. But in Sundarban area, in the coastal area, one plant is growing, that is Heliotropium purascificum. It is not, it is a salt marsh also. Another important salt marsh is Suida. Suida, that is Giriya Shak locally is also, they can consume this also as a shark, as a leafy vegetable. So during the young condition, this is like this green, but when it's mature and in the high saline, then it turns into reddish in color. This is mostly the salt marsh region. The salinity is high. So this is also an important indicator. When you find the salt marsh, then the salinity of the soil is high. So here also you can the other mangroves cannot grow. Only some mangroves which are tolerating high salinity conditions, they can grow, just like Abyssinia marina or something like that. So these are some important mangroves we can introduce. We have an introduction of several mangroves which are growing in the Sundarban. Now, Rothinda also mentioned the importance of mangroves. So because it has some economic service, mangrove, because there are food, several foods can be obtained from the, just like I have mentioned, chakkaura, fodder, Avicennia, you know, that's Avicennia is a good fodder, honey is a good fodder. So timber, because there are so many mangrove plant, the wood is highly important and economically very important also. So house building materials are obtained from this plant. So previously it was used, but not nowadays. It is not used because the mangroves are not failing, and the mangroves are also good for the medicines, because several medicines are obtained from the mangroves. Because you know that most of the medicines are obtained from the biological resources. More than 75% of medicine are obtained from the biological resources all over the globe. And out of these 75%, 70% is obtained from the plants. So obviously, mangroves are growing in the stressful conditions, and the plants which are growing in the stressful conditions, they have important secondary metabolites, and which are useful for the medicines. You know, the today's topic is also the coastal guard. So my river teacher, Dr. Banerjee, he is also mangrove and coastal plant experts, worked in Botanical Survey of India. He often told us the mangroves are the natural border security force. So just you see, this is the condition, this is the river, and this is the dense community of the mangroves. And you can find it is a mixed community. You have the Hetal, you have the Avicennia, and you have the Goran. The several populations, they mix together and form a mixed community. So this dense community can protect the wind, the tidal action also. So I have told you that these coastal regions, especially the mangrove field, it is the land-water interface regions. And these land-water interface regions, that is marine or the freshwater river, basically it is the freshwater and marine water that, as it has the tidal amplitude. So this interface region is dominated by this mangrove community. So it protects the wind action, it protects the tidal action, and it can check the soil erosion. Just you see, this is the condition of after Isla. It is the embankment, earthen embankment, and this is the riverine site. This is riverine site, and this is the village site. And here there is no mangrove, but here the population of Abyssinia. So just I have shown you this picture for this reason. Where there is mangrove population, the earthen embankment has not been broken by the tidal action, but there is no mangrove, the earthen embankment is broken. So mangrove protects the wind as well as the tidal action and checks the soil erosion. Just like you know, the sea immigration inhibits the sea immigration, and also checking the wind action. Because you know, during the climate change scenario, the sea level is rise, and there is the seasonality is change, and natural disaster is coming. So that's why we have to have the mangroves, because for our own survival, until and unless we have the mangroves, the entire Kolkata up to the Barrackpur, it will be inundated by the marine water. So now another important thing is the aesthetic service. You know, name of the E.O. Wilson, a renowned ecologist and entomologist. He coined a term that is known as the biophilia. Biophilia, that means human beings, inborn, they have a quality to love the nature or the natural component or the natural habitat. That's why when we feel tired, we used to move to other places, a mountain, to a coastal regions, to a wetland, whatever. Because for the scenic beauty, if we see a elephant, if we see a peacock, then we have a mental pleasure, mental happiness. That is known as the biophilia. To develop our mental health, we have to have some natural conditions. And Sundarban is such a place, such an important place from its scenic beauty, for its biological components, bees, butterflies, crocodiles, tiger, that you will give a mental peace when you move to the Sundarban regions. So obviously, apart from the ecological service and economic service, it has the aesthetic service also that develop our mental health along with the physical health. Now there are several threats. One is the natural calamities. The mangroves are destroyed, Yas, Amphan. So there are so many natural calamities are there. And these natural calamities, the mangroves are also destroyed in many places. And mostly the mangroves in the village sites, they are destroyed. In the dense national park regions, the mangroves are not so destroyed, but in the other part, the mangroves are destroyed due to the tsunami, Amphan. Yes, there's several natural calamities. It is also unpredictable when it will coming. So this is some devastation caused by I.L.A. in the Namkhana area. So in the village site, because the earthen embankment is broken, because there is no mangrove, where there is no mangrove, the earthen embankment is broken. This is the devastation caused by Amphan in the coastal areas, in the several coastal areas. So another important trait of the mangrove forest is the overexploitation. Because once this was a forest, mangrove forest. Now this mangrove forest is transformed to an agricultural land. And after this agricultural land, this is transformed into a fishery pond. And after fishery pond, this is transformed into a brick cliff. So this change of the land use pattern for more economic gain, the mangroves as well as the habitats of the mangroves, they are gradually dwindling. So in many places, because in several places there are some remnant patches are there. In also, if you move towards Sundarban area, you will find the several places there is the mangrove remnants of the mangrove patches. That does indicate once this was mostly covered by the mangroves, but due to the agricultural expansion, fishery expansion, these mangrove forests have been dwindled. So this is one thing, that is the overexploitation, habitat destruction. Another thing is the pollution, because all the sewage water that is being flowed to the Sundarban regions, that also creates some pollutions in the Sundarban. So the anthropogenic pressure is very important for the dwindling nature of the mangrove habitats. So I like to mention some management plan very quickly, because mangrove is very important, mostly for the ecological point of view. So there are several initiatives, because just I have heard before starting the lecture of Dr. Mondal, probably one speaker has told that the urban embankment. So after the years, government has constituted one committee, a power committee, for suggesting this selection of the species. And there is a call that is the embankment should be stabilized by the mangroves, the mangrove species. So the expert committee has also submitted their different species names according to the conditions that Dr. Mondal has mentioned. So for this afforestation program, the species is very important, in which places, in which area, in which sea facing site, riverine site. So the selection of species is very important. So this is the afforestation program, and mostly forest department is doing the job. Along with the forest department, some local administration, Sundarban Development Board, they are also producing the nursery of mangroves, because mangrove nursery is very critical. It is not a common nursery, because the seed have to be collected from the different places, and they need different salinity conditions as well as different soil conditions. So this is very important for the nursery preparation. And another one that I have also mentioned, that the bioshield for the protection of the embankment. Just you see, this is the embankment, but this is mostly nude embankment. There is no mangrove plants. But just like the bioshield, this is the Abyssinia plant. If there is a zone where the mangroves are going according to the salinity conditions, the different tier, different mangroves are planted in the embankment, the slanting nature of the embankment, urban embankment. I think This bioshield will protect this embankment. Not only that, the wind action can be inhibited by the bioshield. Because to reduce the pressure of the mangrove forest, there are several eco-development program by the forest department is going on, because the dependency on the forest is to be reduced. That's why several other works are generated, alternative livelihood are being generated for reducing the dependency on the mangroves. So this is the eco-development. The tourism is also good, but if the the serious tourists are not there, then the system will be broken down. So ecotourism concept has come. There are several ecotourism concepts. In case of Sundarban also, you have the Bali Island or several islands. There are some ecotourism spot are there. So because the local people have to be involved in the ecotourism, because it is also, if they are involved in the ecotourism, they will not go to the forest for the wood, for the timber, for the fish catch or something like that. So the mangrove ecosystem will be protected if the alternative livelihood is generated. That's why the ecotourism concept is there, and several other activities by the local people are involved in several other activities also. And another one is the very important is the awareness generation, because until and unless the people are sensitized and to know the importance of mangrove, the mangroves or its associated plants and animals cannot be survived. So from West Bengal Biodiversity Board Environment Department, the students, the local people are involved in several activities. Mostly the local people are involved in preparation of people's biodiversity register, that in a particular area what type of plants are prevailing and what types of plants are not prevailing, why they are destroyed, what type of intervention needs to be there. So these type of plants, animals, agriculture, all sorts of people's knowledge that has to be documented, and in the mode of people's biodiversity register, because in the Gram Panchayat level, in the municipality level, as well as Sundarban various in the block level, there is one committee as per the Provision of Biological Diversity Act, the Biodiversity Management Committee, who are the custodian for the protection of the local biodiversity, especially in the village systems. So this type of sensitization program is going on, and the local people are involved. Also, the women in the form of self-help group, they are also involved for mangrove plantation, for nursery development, and for 100 days work. The local people are involved for MGNRG scheme. So these are some sorts of management program. In the canning area also, they have a lot of mangrove program, and the previous year more than 5 crore mangrove are planted in the Sundarban areas. So with the active participation of the local people, the government and other organizations, educational institutes, they are involved for protecting the mangroves. So let us save our environment, save our mangrove for the sake of the existence of the human beings. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunities for deliberation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening us. We will go ahead and take some questions. There are some questions.
Yes.
A botany student named Medha Ghosh, she wants to ask, besides the true characters of mangroves, does the spatial physical adaptation of mangroves change with different mangrove zonations? If they do, then what are the characters that change and how?
No, I can get the questions. Please tell again.
Yeah, sure, sir. Besides the true characters of mangroves, does the spatial physical adaptations of mangroves change with different mangrove zonations? If they do, then what are the characters that change and how?
Actually, in the different mangroves are growing, that I have mentioned earlier also, that mangrove zonations depending upon the conditions. So one mangrove growing in a particular zonation, it cannot be grown in the other zonation, except a few. That means, the Exocaria agalocha, they have some activities, some conditions, they prefer both in conditions of the saline as well as in comparatively less saline regions. So, but they have no such characters. The character is basically same, but they can withstand the two conditions. Okay. But most of the cases, they have the preference of the salinity range. They have preference of the soil characters, because Gorgon is not growing in high salinity conditions, very high salinity conditions, or very low salinity conditions.
Dr. Rai.
Yes, yes.
নমস্কার।
Yes, within that.
Thank you. হ্যাঁ, আচ্ছা আমি একটু উত্তর দিয়ে দিচ্ছি ম্যাডামের যেটা বলছে, আমি কি একটু শেয়ার করব?
হ্যাঁ, করুন। আপনি একটু করুন।
এটা হচ্ছে এই যে স্টুডেন্টটা বলছে যে কথাটা, যে আমি বাংলায় বলছি ম্যাডাম।
হ্যাঁ, নিশ্চয়ই
আই এম
স্যার।
স্পিকিং ইন বেঙ্গলি। আই থিংক ইট উইল বি কমফোর্টেবল টু অল। হ্যাঁ, এটা হচ্ছে ম্যানগ্রোভ যখন তার কিছু স্পেসিফিক ক্যারেক্টারস আছে, বেসড অন দ্যাট দে অ্যাডাপ্ট ইন এ স্পেসিফিক হ্যাবিটেট এরিয়া অর ম্যানগ্রোভ জোন। ঠিক আছে, এখন ও বলছে সে যদি অন্য জায়গায় গিয়ে জন্মায় তার এই ক্যারেক্টারের কোনো চেঞ্জ হয় কিনা, এই তো ব্যাপারটা, তার অ্যাডাপ্টেশনের কোনো চেঞ্জ হয় কিনা। ইউজুয়ালি হোয়াট হ্যাপেন when mangroves grow in a specific area, they develop some organs which is used for physiological purposes or mechanical support, like that. But usually mangroves develop such type of adaptive characters wherever they go. But it is seen that there are some evidences whenever the Abyssinia grow in high saline zone, they develop some roots, that is pneumatophore. They are able to inhale oxygen from the air. Now question is that actually Abyssinia grow in such habitat where aerial pore is very poor or less. So this salinity or habitat condition is called as physiologically dry soil. But it is seen that some mangrove area in Arabian zone, Arabian country, where Abyssinia grow, but this is a sandy belt. So there are huge number of air space, so oxygenation not at all problem. So there it is seen that mangrove cannot develop the pneumatophore. So in such case, their adaptive behavior are changing. That means in our habitat, that is in Sundarbans or where muddy soil is there, you can find Abyssinia is developing pneumatophore. But when the Abyssinia is growing in the sandy area, particularly Arabian condition, so you cannot find the pneumatophore. That means the purpose of pneumatophore is not required there. Okay, but it is not a simple thing that if you put that mangrove, if you collect this mangrove and put Arabian condition, it will not develop pneumatophore. It is not like that. I think this adaptive behavior develops years after years, and for that genetic modification is also responsible, what I feel. So that is the very rare case, but still some evidence is there when mangroves, particular Abyssinia, is showing the different characters of pneumatophore based on the different habitats. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Well, thank you, sir.
Dr. Rai,
হ্যাঁ,
এই ধরনের একটা তথ্য আমি পেয়েছিলাম, সেটা একটু শেয়ার করে নিলাম।
ঠিক।
There is another question from Medha Ghosh. She wants to ask that, does the mangroves have a different kind of modified commensal relationship with others of its ecosystem?
Rothinda, please answer.
বলছে আমি বুঝলাম না কথাটা। অ্যাকচুয়ালি কোশ্চেনটাও ঠিকঠাক হতে হবে, বলুন।
Does the mangroves have a different kind of modified commensal relationship with others of its ecosystem?
Commercial relationship, na? What?
Commensal.
Oh, I cannot follow.
So we can see this question.
Spellingটা বলুন।
COMMENSAL.
CONN মানেটা কি? কমেন্সিয়াল? আই ক্যানট ফলো, সরি। আপনি দেখুন কমেন্সিয়াল ইংলিশ বা মানেটা কি বলছে, আমি তো শুনিনি এই ওয়ার্ডটা। আপনি বলুন, তারপরে আমি বলছি।
Sure, sir. Commensal means living in a relationship in which one organism derives food or other benefits from
আরেকবার
another
বলুন,
organism.
বলুন আরেকবার বলুন।
Sir, commensal meaning হচ্ছে কি living in a relationship with which one organism derives food or other benefits from another organism without hurting or helping it.
আচ্ছা,
In case in this case, the several algae are going on the pneumatophores. So the pneumatophores is an important niche for some several algae like Catenella. So Catenella gets the benefits from as a ecological niche, and the pneumatophore, that is the mangrove plant, they also get some nutrients from this Catenella. So it is a commensal relationship.
আমি আর একটা এক্সাম্পল দিচ্ছি। হ্যাঁ, this is the beauty of the biodiversity. What you know biodiversity, that means if you go any mangrove area, you can find some plants showing excessive growth, but some plants are showing very slow growth. So you are thinking the rapid growth or showing higher growth, you put that plant, and the slower growth plant you will remove. You cannot do, because beauty of the mangrove is that when the higher plant is growing, that means there is a contribution made by the lower plant. Lower plant, what happened, you know, their plant, their litter, they are having maximum amount of nitrogen which is released by the microbes, and that release of microbes, that release of nutrients is supporting the other plants to grow fast. So this is where biodiversity is required. It is, I can put one example. Suppose a family, husband is going working in office, you are thinking, okay, fine, so they don't need a female to stay in the house, not that, but female silently, but wife or his daughter silently put a major contribution. What they are doing, their household activities they are doing, that is why a man is going outside and putting its service. So it is a mutual relationship based on that a diversity work. What Dr. Anirban Babu বললেন, যে one plant is giving nutrients in other way for the health of its growth, and simultaneously he is getting some nutrients from the higher plant.
Okay, thank you, sir. Well, there are many questions, but due to time constraints, it is difficult to take any further question. Thank you once again, sir. Now, I would like to request our bursar and Head of Hindi Department, Dr. Ashutosh Kumar, for both of thanks. The stage is yours, sir. Please unmute yourself.
Good evening. Good evening, one and all present here. Honorable Dr. Amitabh Datto, Chairperson, Principal, Bangabasi Morning College. Sri Jharlal Das, GB Member, Government Nominee. Respected Dr. Srijata Biswas, Convener, I.Q.A.C, and all the participants. It is such an honor for me to get the opportunity to thank all you dignitaries on behalf of our college. I extend a warm welcome to all the participants. I would like to express my gratitude to our esteemed speakers, Dr. R.N. Mandal, Principal Scientist, Regional Research Center, Dr. Anirban Roy, Research Officer, West Bengal Biodiversity Board, for taking out time from their busy schedule to grace the event and make this webinar a great success. Thank you for inspiring and encouraging us with your words on this special day. A special thanks to Principal Dr. Amitabh Datto for providing impulsive support, immense support to make the webinar successful. I extend my gratitude to Dr. Sujata Biswas, convener I.Q.A.C, for organizing a webinar even amidst of the pandemic. I must thank the organizing secretary, Dr. Saptarshi Goswami, and presenter, Dr. Momita Sarkar Samanto, Dr. Siparna Majumdar. Thanks to organizing committee members also. At last, but not the least, I thank all the participants of the webinar. Thank you, everyone, once again for making this webinar a resounding success. Thanks.
Thank you so much, sir. We have come to the end of today's webinar. But before that, I would like to request all of you to switch on your videos for a group photo. So please, all of you, I request all of you to switch on your videos. I think the photo is taken. Well, thank you. The photo is taken. I would like to thank everyone who made this webinar possible, and I express my heartfelt thanks to our speakers for enlightening us. I would like to add that the certificate will be issued within 1 week of the webinar. Thank you all once again. Stay safe, stay healthy. Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.